Hey there, groundbreakers. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the rehab portion of the Burr method. So rehab as it relates to the Burr method. Now, there's going to be more videos on the various rehab components in the rehab section. But for now, we're just going to be discussing rehab in the context of the Burr method in terms of budgeting, in terms of the numbers that you want to kind of track when we're looking at rehab. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here, and then I'm going to go jump into the spreadsheet here. Okay. So, all right. So now when talking about rehab, right? Again, as it is with every other component of the Burr method, everything hooks and anchors on the 75% rule. Okay. All of your costs must stay under 75% of the after repair value, as you recall from some of the other discussion that we've had, right? So now this includes the purchase price, includes closing costs, includes the cost to buy, such as interest, and cost to hold, such as, utilities and all that good stuff. You have to pay insurance and things like that. And then, of course, topic of this video, which is the rehab, right? So now let's go through an example, right? So let's say a house is, that the house to be of the area of $190,000, and 75% of that is 142,500. Okay. Now let's say that you purchase this property at $100,000. And now let's go through some of the costs, right? So closing costs, typical closing costs, with a purchase like this, is going to be $5,000. The cost to buy, so which this means interest, right? So if you're going to borrow money from an investor, private lender, or a hard money loan, generally you're going to probably be looking at 12% APR plus 1.5 points. So I'm going to say roughly $6,000. Now this can vary up and down based on the terms of the contract, but let's just for the sake of this example, let's just say $6,000, and then the cost of rehab. Now this is going to be the wild card that we're going to discuss right now, right? So all of this, purchase price, closing costs, cost to buy, and the rehab need to be under 142,500 in order for you to pull all of your money out of the deal and for it to be a successful Burr project. Okay. So now this is what you need to stay under. Now let's talk about just very quickly. Again, the purpose of the video is just to give you a quick overview of the rehab portion of it and how to budget for it. But now again, we're going to use an example of a house that's about, because this is a typical scope of a type of house you'd buy for an investment, right? A house that's around 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. Okay. So now in with a house of this size, right? Now there's two different types of rehabs. There's a cosmetic rehab, and then there's going to be scope that's beyond cosmetic rehab. Okay. And when we're talking cosmetic rehab, anytime you find a deal, right away, right? It's got to pass the eye test. Okay, is this a cosmetic rehab or is this a beyond cosmetic, right? And we'll talk about a little bit about what that means. Now, this is something that you have to understand when you get this property under contract, right? And you do the numbers, you're trying to understand, how much you're going to spend on this property. You're going to have to understand, just based on the looks of it, is this going to be a cosmetic or more than a cosmetic rehab? And this is going to be based on some of the disclosures that you'll see on the contract, talking to the agent, just talking to the seller if this is an off-market property, just understand generally. Now, you can always go back and once you go into the house and inspect it, you can always go back and renegotiate with the seller or the agent, but just have a general basic outlay of what you're walking yourself into. Okay. So now, if this is a cosmetic rehab, these are the numbers, sort of the numbers that you're going to be dealing with, right? So for a typical cosmetic rehab, flooring, let's see if you're going to have to replace the flooring or redo the wood, resurface the wood and varnish it. We're gonna talk about around $7,000. Now, all these numbers, it could be less, right? It could also be a little bit more, but I'm just giving you general numbers. Now, for painting a house this size, we're talking about around $4,000. Let me get this formatting straight here. Okay. And then kitchen, like a kitchen rehab, we're talking cabinets, right? Brand new cabinets, uh, countertop, whether it be quartz or granite, and appliances and some backsplash is going to generally cost you about $10,000 to get a new kitchen. Now, again, this may vary based on the cabinets might be fine. You just got to paint over it, right? Um, Maybe you don't need to replace all the appliances, but generally that's what you're looking into. For each bathroom, you're talking about around $5,000 to refresh a bathroom, the vanity, reglaze the tub, the mirrors, toilet, maybe some retiling. It's gonna be about $5,000. Now for doors and trims, I'm gonna allocate around another $5,000, right? So brand new doors, some of the trims may be out of shape, plus the labor that's going to be around. So, but by the way, keep in mind all these numbers are they're inclusive of material and labor. Okay. Lighting and fixtures. You're going to allocate around $2,500 for fixtures plus the rehab, the actual excuse me, the labor, right? And then you want to throw in some landscaping. Now, this is kind of depends on seasonality. However, um, most of the time you're going to be having a house in springtime, winter, summertime, fall time. You want to make sure the house has curb appeal. So just allocate about $2,000. You're not going to do anything serious with it, right? Now, you add all that up, and generally, a cosmetic rehab should cost around 35 to $40,000. Okay. Now, there's a range. It could be, what I would say that uh, you're going to be able to get off-market properties that need work that may cost as little as 15K, right? 15K to rehab. But in general, I would say that a cosmetic rehab should cost you around 15 to $40,000. Okay, that should be the number that's in your mind. Now, each of these components, you're gonna kind of go through this list when you look at the pictures and when you get the description from the sellers. You can go through it and kind of allocate what that number will be like. Okay. Now, going to beyond cosmetic. Now, this is where it becomes they use the term gut rehab, right? All these things are needed, plus the cosmetics can be a gut rehab. Now, not every house needs to be a gut rehab. Some just requires plumbing. Some may just require new electricals. Some may just require a new furnace, right? Or a brand new roof. Um, but I wanna just give you like a general sense of what you're going to be looking into. Now, plumbing and electrical, if you're going to replace the whole thing, each system is going to cost around $10,000. HVAC is going to cost you about $6,000. This includes both the furnace and the air conditioning unit. Could be a little bit higher, but on average for a house this size, that's how much you're looking into. To replace a whole roof, I'm gonna kind of be a little bit conservative here and call it 10,000. Now this can range again between 7 and 10,000 based on the roof. Two-floor homes cost more. Depends on the surface area, right? And then foundation. Now, this is going to be your biggest cost, your foundation. And this is going to be about 5-10% of homes. You may have minor foundational issues, some are major. So in general, I would allocate around 5,000 to $30,000 based on this type of foundational work that you need done. And then again, siding itself is also going to be around 10 to 20K, depending on what the material is. It could be aluminum siding, which will maybe cost you on the lower end. Could also be wood siding, which may be cedar wood, which may cost you a little bit more as well. So generally, if once you get beyond the cosmetic rehab, you're looking to an additional 50 to 80K. Now, hopefully, you're not going to have all of these components all at once, right? Just pick out what you need and then add it to whatever these components are, and that's going to be your rehab. Now, let's say that at the end of the day, for this example, your rehab budget is on the higher end of a cosmetic, right? So let's just say it's $40,000. Now, you sum that all up and you're talking 151,000. Now in this example, you're exceeding the 75% rule, right? What this means is you're basically going to be leaving $8,500 in the deal. Is going to be stuck in the deal. This is for a rental example, right? You're going to be $8,500 in the deal that you're not going to be able to pull out at the closing table. You're going to have to bring this much money. Essentially, you can call it your down payment of $8,500. Now, um, in the case of a flip, the way you want to look at it is this $8,500 is going to be coming out of your projected profits, right? You're going to be looking at $8,500 less than what you would have made otherwise. Now, this is the basic way you want to look at it. Now, if you can keep your rehab budget a little bit lower, now you're good with the Burr method, right? Because your all-in cost is 141K and the 75% rule is pointing at 142,500. So now you're in good shape. You're going to be pulling out all your money. You're going to have equity in the deal of between 141 and what this 190 number, which is, let's just talk about that, right? So your equity is going to be 190 minus, you're going to have this much equity in the deal, and probably going to be cash flowing. If the numbers work out, if you're doing it right, you're going to be cash flowing around $400 or $500 a month. So that's a quick video on rehabbing. Of course, if you have any questions, please let us know.